you doing?
Hi, doing all right. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks very much for speaking to me, and congratulations
Yeah.
on the movie. It's fantastic. I loved it.
Happy birthday to you. This is a present.
Analyzing your DNA.
This will sound crazy, but I have a twin. He was kidnapped when he was a baby. It's you.
When I watched the trailer, I was really expecting something really different. I was expecting something was going to be like a straight up horror movie with kind of touches of giallo mixed in there, which there is. But I really wasn't expecting the kind of the tongue in cheek, kind of campy humor that was in there, which really works really well. That most times doesn't tend to work really well with kind of straight out horror movies. So what was the original idea? What came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it the horror that you really wanted to do, or did you want to kind of do something that was kind of campy that lent into horror?
I guess it was definitely the egg was or whatever. The first one was horror. Like I definitely set out to make this horror film. But as I'm writing, like I'm pretty into like the horror concept that I came up with. Like I came up with this concept of this like basically I had like an Excel and vertically I had like a bunch of family relationships like siblings, mom, son, and then the vertical was like horror monsters like ogres, trolls, vampires, whatever. And like at the intersection of witch and mom, son, I was like, ah, cool, a witch that like does something messed up by like sleeping with her son. That's like I'm into this concept or whatever. And I started writing that and I was having fun writing it and writing the horror parts of it. But as soon as I started making stuff that was making me laugh, I felt really at home. Cause like, and this is something I've sort of realized as I've been thinking about this movie and what to do next is like so many of the films, whether horror or not, that I love, it's like comedy is such a big part of them. And sometimes it's even, films that other people might not see comedy in. Like I see a lot of comedy in Blue Velvet or The Shining, but not everybody does.
Not
But
everyone sees it, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, for me, it's really important. So it came after, but it made it feel a lot more me. There's actually a few really funny scenes that we had to cut out, just because in editing you're trying to make the
So keep the
film as
tone.
pure as possible in some way.
Yeah.
And there's really, really funny scenes that I'm bummed that they're cut out. But
You can then the outtakes on the DVD now.
yeah.
But listen, so yeah, I'm curious. You mentioned that you made an Excel with monsters on one side and kind of family members on another. I'm curious where did you end up plotting La Duquesa de Alba in that Excel on that Excel table? Because I read that because I'm living in Spain. I live in Bilbao, so Duquesa de Alba was very familiar to me. So as soon as I saw her on screen, it was like, wow, she's not dead. That was fake news. So what was it about her that kind of attracted you to kind of inspire one of the characters on her?
So initially I was, I just had this sort of more generic cliche idea of a witch, which is like this like old hag, etc. But then when I was like sort of like, delving a little deeper into it, I was like, but that's lame. That's just like sort of like ageist, sexist trope of like the ugly old woman who's mean and scary or something. And I was like, well, what is it about this myth that interests me? This myth that I had sort of invented. And I was like, well, she's self-obsessed. She won't let like her kids live their lives. Like she wants to be young. She wants to be the protagonist. She wants to be beautiful. And I was like, well, that's narcissism. So let's not make her wrinkly and creepy. And this was actually in like V2 or something of the script, but it felt like it clicked a lot when this happened. I was like, oh, okay, so her what's going to be weird and creepy about her is how much she's disfigured herself through plastic surgery. Yeah. And so then I went quickly to Condesa d'Alba because it sort of made sense with that aristocratic element that I wanted to like, dovetail into the script. And then I also like this idea that Condesa d'Alba is like a little tongue-in-cheek as well. Like she has this very younger like partner. Yeah. A lot of the pictures of her like dancing with him in like bright pink dresses. She's got bows in her hair. So there's this flaunting and fun that I thought was cool for this creepy bad character or something.
Brilliant. So I mean, I'm going to talk also about Carlotto's character because he plays. I think we can say that he plays two different characters. No, I can't remember if it's in the trailer, but it's not really a spoiler per se. No.
Yeah.
Was it always going to be the same person playing two twin brothers? Because that's laying down a gauntlet for yourself. Was that to add to this kind of humor that you wanted to bring in there, that you had the same person playing two different people, one who'd lived there all his life and the other one who was come from Brooklyn? Was it Brooklyn, I think?
Yeah, So there was a few options that I was thinking. It was like, all right, they're not twins, they're just siblings. And then you have two actors. Great, much easier for directing and production. Or this twin idea is really important for the concept, and that I don't want to like spoil.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the option of like finding twins or, you know, doubling your twin actor. In terms of like the humor being a sort of payoff for the audience, in Portugal, it really worked because people know Carloto and they know there's not
Right.
twins of Carloto. And so when the two siblings show up on screen, everybody cracked up laughing, like in the premiere or whatever. And it was really satisfying. It was actually something I hadn't really predicted that. I guess I had a little bit of an intuition that it could be a little funny that it's Carloto doubled or something.
Yeah.
But
But
I
for
didn't
me,
hear
I
that
mean,
very
for me not knowing who he is, sorry to interrupt you, but for me not knowing who he was, it felt humorous to me because it reminded me, I don't know why, but it's a very different film. It reminded me of when Jean-Claude Van Damme played himself as two twins, and it was just that kind of humor, you know, that kind of
totally,
tongue-in-cheek
yeah.
humor worked perfectly. Yeah.
He looks exactly like you.
Look like me? You, of all people, should know I would never in my life wear black silk underwear.
And then we sort of leaned into it, like, as you're doing costumes and rehearsal and whatever, you're sort of finding the characters. And I think he found Manel a little earlier than Ed. And it was during costuming, and the costume person had brought these sort of like, we were trying to do like country aristocrat from Portugal or something, this sort of like unbuttoned tight shirt, like Ralph Lauren, but a little Euro or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he put on these tight pants and these cowboy boots and this shirt and this wig. All of a sudden, oh, the wig was supposed to be for Ed originally, but he like tried it on with the Manel costume, and he starts walking, he starts strutting, and he's like, the guy's obsessed with Jim Morrison. And like that's his like thing. That's who he wants to be. And I thought that was so funny. And I think he brought a bit of that like sort of like, yeah,
Definitely, yeah.
attitude to the character. And I really appreciate that humor. Obviously, like it's a big balance. Like you still want to be able to scare people and not be, that mix has to be right. And that's what we struggled most in the edit is like, all right, let's cut out some of this stuff that's like maybe making it too ridiculous to try to keep some of the seriousness and suspense going. And so that's like the balance, but I really wanted to have that balance, and that character really worked. I think that Amelia really worked, is the best version of that, you know, mix of camp and horror.
My brother, welcome home. We have a deep spiritual connection in this family. That's Mommy.
She's so beautiful.
Do you want to meet her?
Listen.
And Abella, when she did Amelia, it's like she put this mask on, and it took like 6 hours, and then it took like 3 hours to take it off. But then she said something that really resonated with me, and I thought was cool. It was like, I've never felt more comfortable in a character, and I think the mask really helps an actor. It can be like a sort of like the costume helped Carlotta with Manel. It's like, oh, now I found it. This clicks or something. And with Amelia's mask, like, yeah, since she's wearing the mask, she never comes out of character, you know?
Yeah. Something else I wanted to talk about with you is the music, because I know that you wrote the music. Was it on like a small keyboard or something? How important? And there's also in the film we can see like vinyl records, and you're playing music and they're dancing, all kind of things. How important was it for you to discuss the music with the characters before they actually went onto camera?
Yeah, we really discuss. I mean, like the more important ones are the ones that are live. Like the last song, the characters are actually like, you know, choreographed to that song. And I picked all these sort of like oldies from Portugal, and they sort of, you know, maybe track this last life of Amelia, like it's her taste recently or something, and they're like almost like 40 years of Portuguese music history, or maybe 60 or something. Yeah, 60 years of like Portuguese music history that's like peppered throughout. And I thought that was cool as like a representation of Amelia and her character, and it shows up, you know, mostly when she's on screen. And then the stuff that I wrote, I'd done the music for 2 of my shorts, and I really enjoyed it. But obviously, doing it for a horror film where music's such a like outsized priority, in helping establish the tone and the scares and whatever, I was very nervous to do it, and it was always on the table. It's like, if I do like my first pass and we see this not fitting, let's try to find somebody else. But I don't know. I was really inspired by like Carpenter doing his own music, and yeah, I was into that. And then when I like read that Carpenter had done like the Halloween full soundtrack in 3 days,
Yeah,
I thought that was
a
so
little
cool.
Casio, I think. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, listen, we're out of time. They give me the wrap. So listen, Gabriel, thank you so much for your time. I wish you the best of luck with the film. I'm sure the comedy is going to go down just as well as the horror. And I hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care of yourself. Nice to meet you.
I've been dreaming of this moment since the day they took you.
Open the door! Stop!